My name is Ahmad, and I will be going through my project today. The game I created is called CATastrophe. CATastrophe is a game where you play as a cat and you basically collect mice, and the person who collects the most mice wins the round. Now, let's start by logging in. After you log in, you can select which color cat you want. By default, the cat will be black. However, let's go with orange this time. So as we play the game, you can see we walk around, we collect mice, and every time you collect a mouse, it makes a mouse click sound, but like a keyboard mouse click. And then here's my save and load feature. As you can see, it saves the time, it saves the score, and it saves the position of the mice that are already spawned. Since I saved when there are no mice spawned, it doesn't show that, but after you click load, everything goes back to working again. Additionally, we also have the pause menu, which functions basically the same as the save and load, where it pauses everything. However, you also have the option to mute the sounds that the mice make, and you can mute that, and then you press tab, and then you can go back. Additionally, if you don't want to open the menu, you can also just press M on the keyboard and it will mute it, as I show here. As you can see, now it's muted. And now let's just wait for the time to run out. Generally, the rounds would be probably about 3 minutes long, but for the sake of time, I decided to make it only 60 seconds for this video. Additionally, there's a chance for mice to spawn normally, which is only 1 point, and then a chance for them to spawn in a little bit of a larger state, which is worth 2 points. Although it seems to be very rare. Okay, and now that you win, when playing with other people, you'll see who got the most mice and who won the round, and then the people under them. And as for this leaderboard basically keeps track of the people who have played the game before and how many wins they have. Previously, we only had 7 wins, and after this time, we have 8 wins. And you can see some other test accounts I created. Now, let me go to my game data so you can actually see the data. You can see players. I can see here, this is the player created, this is their password, this is how many wins they have, and then this is how many mice they caught. So it's 9 and 9 wins, and then 138 mice caught. And let me just play again and create a new account and show that working as well. To password. And then let's do a white cat this time. And as you can see, we just go through and we should be able to check this. And now see, we have test 2, and then we can see that the total mice I have caught is already 2, and I have 0 wins. My new password. Additionally, while playing in multiplayer, you'll also go to this lobby scene. It'll update here with the amount of people in the lobby and a join button. And essentially, only 2 people can play against each other because the space is limited, so we don't want to overcrowd it. Additionally, this is the scene where I have my time, and I also have my spotlight down the middle. It's hard to tell with 2D, but it mainly just adds a tint to the sprites when they pass underneath it. Now, moving on to the part that'll take the longest, I'm going to be showing my code, and there's a lot of code to go through, as you can see here. So starting off with character selection. This is basically what allows us to pick what player we're selecting. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We connect it to the buttons, and then when you click, it loads this. And here's the database manager. Now the database manager, it connects us to the database and it updates it with what sounds pressed, and it also controls the menu and stuff like that. So you see, select mouse, and then we move on to our game manager, and you can see the audio's right there. And then the input that we use to move around, the escape manager to collect. Additionally, we're using the delegate in this project is the mouse collection, the mouse collectible, which is the script we'll get to later, and you can see that a little bit in more detail. And for multiplayer, we're using Unity netcode. And this is display. You will only see the score for yourself, and also everyone has the same timer. Additionally, this creates the save and load button. Now the join button, this is for the multiplayer, and this is just to help the lobby manager, essentially, to make it a little bit easier for it to register when someone's clicking when to join and stuff like that. The leaderboard manager, since this is going to be the same for everyone, it doesn't really need to be in a network behavior, because the people who won, it'll stay the same each time. Now lobby manager, this is where I was talking about, where it shows the people that join and people, the countdown and stuff like that for when you join the lobby. Variable. And here's my login manager. You just have, so I tried to make it a really simple layout, as you saw, where it's just a username and password. When you are creating a new account for the first time, it's essentially the same exact UI. It's just that it creates one in the database. If you put the same username and password, you just log into it. If you put the username but you put the wrong password, it gives you like an error, like it doesn't allow you to play. So that's how that works. And I decided to save the username, password, the total wins the person has, and the total mice. The total wins is really just for the leaderboard and stuff like that. And it also saves the match data as well, so you know who won the round. And this is the delegate I was talking about. As you can see here, this is the mouse collectible. Now my mouse spawner, let me see if I can show it in the code a little better. Let me go to my scene. Okay, so these yellow boxes you see here are the mouse spawners. I decided to put them in boxes so it doesn't spawn like all over the place in the midair. So the mice can spawn in these, and there's usually only one per box, and about only 5 can spawn at a time, so it doesn't get overcrowded with mice. Additionally, with this platform you see up here, this allows the player to go in and out, so you can use the up and down button to like phase through it. It's essentially like a platform. And I'm going back to the code. This is my mouse spawn points. Network manager. This one is very simplified because Mira is usually handling that stuff, so it's not really, so this part is actually not really needed, but it's just extra. And then this is the player clear. This is just to make it remember which cat is selected or which color you want it to be. Player control, this also plays a role in which cat that you select. It also has the ground check so that you don't like fall through the floor of the map. And now here's the player data. This is sending the data to the database and stuff like, well, it's saving what you want to send. And now moving on to player preference holder. This one's a little more simple. It just keeps track of what you want, so it shows it in game. Now the player score is here, and this updates it on the screen, and it keeps track of when you collect a mouse and then how many points you get for that. Now the player state manager, this is another design pattern I use besides my singleton, and this basically keeps track of whenever we like save and load the game and you see the player freezes, it keeps track of the player being stunned and like frozen, and also like in their normal state when they're walking. Additionally, there is a powered up state for later, for the future of the game, where we could add power ups and things like that, expand it when the maps are really large and stuff like that, but for now it's not necessarily needed. Additionally, you could jump on people's heads to kind of like stun them and make them not move. Now the round manager, these keep tracks of when a round ends and when to move on to the leaderboard scene, where you see like who won and who did that, and like it'll update the player wins with how many, like if they won the round they'll get an extra win added onto that. Save data, this is what the data saved, the player score, time remaining, and the mouse position. This is what I was talking about earlier with the save and load. This is the save and manager, which handles the save and load. The save system. My scene loader, this is just a very simple scene loader, and it does, as the name implies, it loads the scenes. And then we show on to the score manager. Just keep track of the score and the updates. And here's my time manager. This is keep track of the score of the round. We can update this. Usually it'll be about 180 which is 3 minutes, but for the sake of the video I decided to lower it to only 60 seconds. And then it keeps track of that. And then here's the singleton that we use. This is used in the, I believe this is used in the game manager. And then here's my spawn point gizmo. This is just to keep those boxes I showed earlier where they must spawn in like a yellow color so I can clearly see them when I'm using them. So let me quickly check through my checklist. The light source, the audio source, full GUI, ability save, one singleton, and we interact with the database. Perfect. And now let's move on to a little bit more of the actual design document. So as you can see here, this is my design document. This was early on when I first created the game. The title is called CATastrophe, and you can kind of see from this image the map that I created. As you can see here, I tried on with this platform here. I want to keep the map a little more open in the middle so that it's not overcrowded and it's easier to jump around and stuff for people, especially when there's a lot of people. And here I decided to lower the amount of people playing to only 2 people, just for the simplicity of the code as well as just the simplicity of the gameplay. And here's another idea of what the map could be in the future when we have more maps. As for the gameplay mechanics, it's also pretty simple. You have a certain amount of time to catch as many mice as possible, and the person who scores the amount of mice wins the game. The mice can spawn normally and are worth 1 point, or they can spawn as a large amount and be double the amount of points. The controls are simple as to you use A and D on the keyboard to move left and right, use spacebar to jump, and then you use escape to open the pause menu, tab to close the pause menu, and M to unmute and mute the game. You can also do this in the actual menu itself, but while playing a game that's multiplayer, you probably don't want to have to open the menu and waste time like that, so it's easier to just press M on the keyboard. So the game is supposed to be configured, but it's supposed to also be friendly and fun. You don't want people getting mad over it and stuff like that. So it's very simple with how people interact with each other. And this is the early set for my UI. As you can see here, we have the play in setting. I decided to instead replace it with the username and password and then the play button because I thought that makes more sense. And then the settings are just in the game, so that you can always access it and change it when you want to, and not just you have to go all the way back to the main menu. You can select your cat here. The join lobby is essentially the same. The way the game looks, essentially the same. The most amount, I guess, and the most of the leaderboard. That's how my design document looks, and where I think I plan the game out pretty nicely in terms of what I was able to accomplish with the game. Now going back to the game scene, just so we have something to look at. Let me go to main menu, just because it looks nicer. Some of this art in the game was made by me, some of it was made from online. I decided to go for an aesthetic of the game where I think, well, originally I wanted to be outdoors, but then the more I thought about it, I thought that it makes more sense for mice to be caught in a place like a warehouse or stuff like that, especially that's why you would hire a cat for. So I thought that it would be a nice aesthetic to have it with boxes and stuff like that, especially since cats love cardboard boxes. And overall, I think for the future development plans, we could add more stuff like power-ups. We could expand the maps to be larger. We could extend the user interactions more so that people can sabotage other players in a more funny way, kind of like Smash Bros and stuff like that. Additionally, I think that prior to the game, we could add more of an incentive to get more mice, or could add even more mice that are, I guess, maybe more harder to catch, that are worth more. Like they can move around, or they can harm the player in some way by like making them like fall off or something. Kind of copying like the same thing with Mario, where like you have to like jump on the heads of something to be able to actually collect it, because if you ran straight onto it, it will like attack you or like make you like take damage or stun you and stuff like that. So I think that's a really good way to create a more interactive environment for the players, and I hope you enjoyed listening to my presentation. This is my game, and yeah, thank you for watching.